on this first podcast of the new year. I believe that after last week, which was last year, everyone got a chance to take some serious resolutions for the new year. And we're all set, and hopefully everything will work out for our good this year. So this evening, I have the privilege to present to you my friend, Heather Ann Ferry. Heather Ann Ferry is the author of Victim to Victory, Healing Generational Abuse from Her Bloodline. Her book is a memo of how her childhood abuse affected every aspect of her adult life, from career, health, and relationship. Heather Ann spent a decade in New York City performing on Broadway and producing and writing off-Broadway shows on women's issues. She holds a Guinness Book of World Records for 16 continuous times on one foot in tap shoes. Heather's diverse career in yoga, Pilates, and the theater stopped when she started to experience chronic pain. Western medicine wanted to label her and hand her pills for the rest of her life with no real solutions. Listening to her intuition led her down a unique path of ancient sciences. These sciences saved her life. Through the dark night of the soul, Heather Ann retrieved medicinal information from the Jesus Christ lineage. Anna, Mother Mary, Joseph, and Mary Magdalene. This is when her authentic healing abilities were birthed. She was able to heal her genetic red blood cell disorder, cancer, and complex PTSD, and chronic pain. With every client she coaches and every talk she gives, she wants you to know anything is possible with the will and heart of I am. So please, friends, join me and I welcome my dear friend, Heather Ann. Over to you, Heather.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on tonight. And I wanted to discuss a little bit about pain, how we heal our pain. Because whether you have a family member who comes from addiction or is labeled with some sort of mental illness, when I say labeled, I mean PTSD, OCD, bipolar, or whether you come from a family lineage of childhood abuse, or even our society right now. The one common theme is, how do we deal and how do we feel our pain? And through the years, through my personal journey, I ate sugar. Sugar was, if you study sugar, it's like cocaine in the frontal cortex of the brain. It numbs your memories. It numbs your brain. And so I was a sugar addict, just like somebody else is a cocaine addict, just like somebody else is a sex addict, just like somebody else is a shopping addict, just like somebody else is a workaholic addict, just like somebody else is a fear addict. And we live in a society where, unfortunately, I think the outside external world, the propaganda of the outside world supports us being addicts and numbing in some way or some form ourselves. And so my story is like everybody else's story. We can just change the cliff notes. I was very blessed to get very sick. I call it hit rock bottom. And I was very blessed to have the will, to have something inside of me that said to the medical world, and I'm not against doctors. In fact, I train them. I train nurses who lead the system and support natural ways of healing. There is a place for medicine, but it shouldn't be monopolizing everything. And we have to question chemicalization in general, because chemicals are acidic. Our bodies need to be alkaline. When you're acidic, you are going to be lower frequency and you're going to have a hard time connecting to God, Christ consciousness, Buddha, whatever you want to call it, whatever you resonate with, something that is unconditional love. And so that's why we get into detoxing. That's why we get into drinking living water. That's why we get into brain rewiring. And I've had a 25-year journey of that. And so with those labels, I was brave enough, and it was scary to say no. No, I will not be labeled with thalassemia the rest of my life. No, I will not be labeled with chronic pain in my body the rest of my life. And with that came a deep surrendering. I want you to think about that word, surrendering. Because I work with a lot of Christians, a lot of Catholics, a lot of religious people who read the Bible. They know every verse, but they have never had experiences. They don't allow themselves to have experiences inside yourself. This is the temple that God, this is your godly temple. You have to know what's inside you. And if you're expecting somebody else to know it, you've lost your power. So for me, that surrendering point was letting go of my ego. Not easy to do. The ego is a shield. It's a shield. We've all been trained in some way, shape, or form. It deals a lot with the masculine side. We all have a masculine side at the right side of the body. We all have a feminine side. The feminine side is the left side of the body. And I think as a collective, we're healing more of the shadow masculine side, the ego, the rigid, the control. If we think of centuries of history and who controlled the programming, who controlled your schooling. And the feminine side is numb and repressed and scared and hiding. And I don't mean by gender, because when I'm working with men, it's the same thing. So we all collectively have this. This is a collective healing issue. And it all goes back to how we process, how we understand emotions. We're emotional beings. All emotions are so important. And unfortunately, pain is uncomfortable. You know, there's a lot of people who come to me through the process of coaching and they're embarrassed to cry. And when they start to cry for 2 hours, they think something's wrong with themselves. We've got to rethink what healing is. Until we can cry out our grief, our sadness, our traumas, our karmas, we're really reacting all the time in our everyday life to everybody around us. I've done it for years, you know, until we heal that. And so if you went onto my website, heatherannferry.com, that really explains the journey of how I came to these sciences that were led by Jesus Christ, living electrolyzed reduced water, living water. What's the difference between think of the word living and think of the word dead? Well, we can test water. This is simple. This is science. But most people are drinking dead water or chemicalized poison water. And that's sometimes hard for people to grasp. And you know what the word is? It's denial. Because why would someone put toxins in our water? I know I wouldn't do that if I was in charge of the system, but I'm not in charge of the system right now. So that denial, just like the denial of childhood abuse, just like the denial of, the people that you want to love, you don't know how to actually love yet. All these things, life is complicated. But what I know to be true is that we start with thyself because we leave with thyself. So as soon as I find myself wanting to judge somebody or wanting to get upset, I have to go back to self. What is not healed within the wounded child in me? What needs to be addressed within myself that I can come at this with unconditional love? And if anybody reads my book, which was written 10 years ago while I was sick, I was not a writer. God told me to write my story out, and I did the best job I could. I think it was to show people that I had the experiences of trauma and severe sickness so that you see me now fully healed, that I may have some information to help you. I may be able to train doctors. I may not have the same degrees. My degree came from, I believe, the Holy Family. And there were sacrifices made to that. There were sacrifices of allowing myself to be sick and continue to detox and be sick, as opposed to rushing it, as opposed to, well, I'm a little better now, so I'll stop doing that and I'll stop doing that because I got to make money. I got to make money. No, why are you here? Why are you here? We're here to be the highest frequency of unconditional love and blessings. Your presence is what heals. And I can speak truth to that right now because I separated from my biological family for 7 years. And Mother Mary brought me back in the last year. And I can tell you with my parents, there is deep, deep healing happening right now with them and with the Holy Family. And that might be another book, to be honest with you. But that healing couldn't have happened until they saw this being. I didn't have to speak the words of the sciences I used. I just walked in the room. And whenever their programmings of negativity or judgment came at me, I didn't react to it. I smiled with grace and spoke with grace of, that is your programming. I do not sign up for that now. I am unconditional love. I am truth. These are my feelings. We have to honor people's feelings, whether we understand them. They're important. And as soon as you're reacting to somebody's feelings, that's really about you, right? And so I think that this year is about healing your emotional body. We have a physical body, and the physical body doesn't lie. So if you have a disease, it's screaming something out at you, and it's not going to be a physical answer necessarily. What I mean by that is, yes, we can change your water. Yes, we can add supplements. Those tend to be more physical, earthly things. But we still have to go inside the body. It's really tight here. I have pain here. What is that pain about? That pain isn't genetic. That pain, I remember having disc issues, back issues. This is a genetic thing. I don't believe in I believe in epigenetics. So my mom's like, well, this just runs in the family, right? Back pain, just runs. You've heard that. Some people have heard this just runs in the family. No, experiences run in the family. Lifestyle runs in the family. Thought processes run in the family. So you have to reconstruct and dig to change that. So when I go to a dinner and I'm a vegan, a healthy vegan, because a lot of people do that wrong, and I have my living water container and I'm drinking, I'm not changing them. They can eat whatever they want, but I'm going to eat what I want. And as they see this, well, guess what's happening? They're changing all that right now. Not because I said anything, but because if you can't see the hell, I'm 49 years old. I look younger than I did 10 years ago. That's not because I'm doing any kind of anti-aging thing. That's because I'm healing my organs. I'm healing my blood. And part of that is honoring my feelings. And so through the sicknesses, I had to cry a lot, and I had to give myself permission to cry and feel and let go of the anger and let go of the sadness and understand, where does it come from? Well, it comes from, I didn't get to have a voice in my family. I didn't get to be able to have a voice even in my showbiz career. I didn't get to have a voice, so I kept repressing it. I kept getting bottled up and angry. And so I had to let that voice out. And so when I work with people, it's finding their tools and their gifts, because everybody has them, whether it's writing, singing, dancing, and you don't have to be a professional to do it, whether it's cooking, sewing, expression of who you are, that is your authentic self that you can express. So this is all wrapped up in the complexities of who we are, but it all goes back to feelings. What are we feeling? And what are we listening to? And how does that make us feel? Because if you're always listening to negativity, I will guarantee you there is wiring going, you're taking that in. You're taking that in. And so that just gives you a little bit of taste of my background. I work with several sciences, and I'll explain them because some of you have maybe never heard of them before. I work with electrolyzed reduced water, which is a Japanese medical device. And I never expected to learn all that science, but that's one thing I drink every day. There's 7 different types of waters that do 7 different types of jobs, and it's pretty amazing. I work with brain protocols also. This, I believe, came from Jesus's grandmother, Anna. There is a lot of clinical research behind these brain protocols. And I work with PTSD, rewiring OCD, rewiring abuse psyche, childhood trauma, and rewiring addiction. Mostly people need at least 2 of those brain protocols, if not 3. I always start with everybody with the PTSD brain protocol. I mean, when you think about the last 2 years, I think everybody has some nerves, some nervous anxiety issues at this point of what we've all collectively in the world have gone through. What the PTSD brain protocol does is it teaches your nervous system to relax. And what I like about it is it gives you your power back. And what I mean by that is you're learning different finger placement patterns, because we know when you play the piano, what are you stimulating in the brain, right? There's something going on in the brain. You're doing breath patterns. You're doing eye placement and tongue placement. So you are literally changing the neurological stuff going in your brain. And to me, it's partly, as a coach, we work together. Even though I've done, what some would say psychic surgeries, miracle healings, you have to learn to be your own healer. So when I give my clients homework, if you don't go home and you can't find the time to do this and work on it and know what your feelings are and get your downloads, you're not going to evolve. And I'm just a Band-Aid, but I'm definitely not an enabler. I see a lot of enabling in the system. You have to take ownership. When I hit rock bottom, I was really sick. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the support. Everybody left me. I had me. And I chose me. And that's all it comes down to. God. And then when you decide, just like the intention of the new year, I set an intention at the end of every month. I try to make it very short and sweet, because it's really a daily thing. What are you doing for self? And do you hold yourself kind of accountable as your own self-parenting? And when you get off track, what got you off track from yourself? How did you lose yourself? Why did you choose to lose yourself? It's constant internal questions to get back to your feelings. And that gives you a little taste. I kind of went in a little bit of tangents there, but maybe it planted some seeds of questions.
Well, I just want to say, Heather, thank you. That was definitely very well thought out. And thanks for sharing your experience. Totally awesome. And Zita, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited for you, man. I'm seeing this thing grow, and I just want to continue to send you very positive energy and outcome and stuff like that. So awesome job.
Thank you so much. For everyone here, Edwin is from Nigeria. He's my brother. He started, yes, he started the Happiness Neighborhood Project. And it is through this beautiful happiness network that I got connected to doing what I'm doing today. So I want to say to you, Edwin, my dear, thank you so much, and may God continue to use you globally for his good work. So many of us here are all happy neighbors, and we all meet several times a week in different platforms to celebrate and talk about what we do with Edwin on his platform. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming.
All right. Hey, it was good to see all of you.
Nice to see you, Edwin.
All right.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thank you, Edwin.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Edwin.
So for the conversation we want to have right now, questions and comments, please, Emily, can you let everybody into the one place here? Thank you. So before we entertain questions or comments on what Heather has really shared, Heather, this is awesome. I mean, you've given us food for thought. And honestly, this is really hits home for me. And hopefully we all are going away with an important information for each one to reflect, especially as we start the new year. And there are a whole lot that you spoke, and I don't think we all have time, to really unpack it. But I am inviting anyone and everyone that feels called, to ask questions, make comments, to please come forward before I make my own comment. But I want to really thank you for coming, and I'm glad and have you as a friend. And it also, through God and the connection that we got connected. It was just a miracle how I came to know Heather. We will share that story another day. But for today, please feel free to ask questions or make comments.
And I just wanted to mention, if you're listening to this and you don't feel comfortable, let's say, asking questions, you can always drop a comment on this post, or you can email me on my website at Heather Ann Ferry, and we'll have that as well. And because some of you might want to ask some more trauma questions or go on there, and I want to respect that as well. So that's a resource for you, especially with the PTSD and the OCD programming. So.
And we know the importance of healing in our lives. You touched on something that really prompted me to start World of Women, because I know we talk about trauma, pain. I also, from my experience with journeying with women as a nurse, and particularly as a midwife, I understand pain at that level. And a lot of women, when they are going through birthing, you kind of get in touch with the level of trauma they have been through in their life. Mm-hmm. And that can be very painful, even for me, attending to them. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Heather, is we say we'll learn to be your healer. I know pretty much that there are a whole lot of women who are in touch with their pain, who are in touch with their trauma. What they don't know or don't have is the resources they need to, heal themselves, because this healing might not just be you going inside you only, you might need someone who can accompany you, depending on how deep this pain is, this trauma is. And so some of the trauma that we go through today, most of them are in the subconscious. So you need someone that can accompany you, pull that out, and bring it to the surface. And if you're not able to do that or have the resources, and that goes a lot for a lot of women I know, my population are struggling in so many different ways. So my question is, how can we really provide resources? How can we go about resources that might help these women to heal themselves? And like I said, many women are really in touch with their pain and their trauma. It's just that they don't know, have the resources to
So
be able to.
yeah, I want to address that on a couple of different levels. Okay. Really great question. So I'm going to start with myself. So, you know, me and my mother have had a lot of deep conversations recently. And, you know, I come from my mom's side of the family, a lineage of really very poor, not a lot of means, lived in the Depression, scarcity, fear-based. My mom watched her house go down, a little shack go down in a flood. So the wiring of women specifically not making money was definitely downloaded in me. And even I, in the last 2 years, I, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, got a mortgage as a small business owner and a woman. My mom was a real estate agent. She says it's really rare for single women who are entrepreneurs to actually be able to get a mortgage, even to this day. And she wrote me a little letter just saying how proud she was and how I've succeeded past the generation of, I hate to say it, but dependence of a man. And so I do want to say that when people read my book, they're shocked because I worked 3 jobs. When you say release your ego, I worked jobs that I obviously didn't want to do, but I did whatever I could do to pay for my outs, because everything I did was out of pocket. There was nothing covered by insurance. I don't believe in insurance. I believe in empowering myself. I trust that God will provide. I have to take risks in that movement. I have to work because money is energy. And so my mom grew up with money's evil, or money's, all these issues with money. And so part of me, as I owned that and said, I'm worth this, no, I wasn't going on vacations. I didn't buy a house. I lived in a small apartment. I lived in means, but I spent money on medical devices. And as she's spending the money in the next couple months on these devices, she was surprised that I invested so much money on myself. This was a declaration of reprogramming in our system. So I want to start with that, because I think we can make excuses when we really do have the ability. I was chronically unable to walk for 3 years, and I still walked. Okay, I limped and walked really slow in severe chronic pain, and I worked full time at home to heal myself. So you have to have the will. And if you don't have the will, no one's going to do it for you. And I think that we really need to step into that empowerment, because I see as healers, I used to, early in my career, I used to work for a very low fee, and those people never healed fully. And you know why? Because when you don't work or invest in it, you don't have a value to what the healer's bringing to the table. When somebody spends $200 a session on me, do you think they're going to do their homework? Do you think they're going to pay attention to everything I say? Do you think they're going to surrender their will on the table when I release an entity? Yeah. So I slowly, and it took a long time, because there's this sort of weird, we all have money issues. And I really hope that you go dive deep into your generational lineage with that. So right now with my mom, we're working on that. My mom has decided in the last month with seeing my dad sick and seeing the healing products that she's going to downsize her house. That's a choice. You make choices, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is yes, we have poverty, or well, let's just face it. We have addiction centers that have failed. And this is a big subject matter. We have a lot of centers that aren't, whether they're in insurance or out of insurance, they're not working. And so part of the resources is we need to get people who are in nonprofits to get grant money to hire me to teach their staff. We need nonprofits to buy the medical devices and provide that for the community, to educate the community. So if we can plant seeds and get the community healthier inside, then maybe they'll be more resourceful in the way they go about making money, the way they go about doing what they do to empower themselves to be able to then, so I do believe that we need, I'm basically starting to become a director, and I'm saying I have the science for the grant writing. I have the experience and the testimonies, and I have doctors and nurses I've trained for the grant writing. I need people to say, come to our facility. We just created a grant. I'm just talking to somebody in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on addiction with that, because they're, I've met so many people that their children have gone to 16 addiction centers. And I know exactly what they're doing, and they're not doing what needs to be done. So we as a community have to take responsibility of that. So I think that we have to find leaders, we have to find CEOs, we have to find small business owners that are willing to get some of this in, or train their team or train their employees, because the one call I have is I need people trained in some, like the brain protocols. I think everybody would benefit from learning the PTSD brain protocol. It wouldn't hurt you, that's for sure, So it is about, but being a one-woman show all these years, it's hard for me, as you know, it's taxing. If I'm in the healing room for 5 hours with somebody, then I've got to I'm doing every job right now. So you also have to understand what we've been through in not being in the insurance, not getting our pensions, not getting our health care and covered, not getting a secretary to do the work, not getting, you got to see the reality and the struggles on all ends. And so I really speak to the healers and the people who are outside the box, because we are working full time. I've trained and studied 16 hours a day in obsession of wanting to know how to heal. But we need, so for me, I need resources. I need volunteers. I need people that will help connect the bridge, connect the dots. So that's how we start to empower these women, because there were a few women that came to me that wanted to be trauma coaches. And I gave them a couple exercises. One is a 4-step neurological test. And unfortunately, they couldn't pass it. They had severe brain damage. How can we have people teaching or healing trauma when they have brain damage and trauma? This is the dilemma I'm in right now. I have to be clear and honest about it. You know what I mean? Most people who come to me, and some people think they're healthy. Nobody is passing this 4-step neurological test. We're failing in the mental health world. We're failing in the neurological world. Just so you know, I just want to plant the seed. 7 years ago, I was known in the underground world for rewiring stroke, massive strokes. I had all medical doctors coming to me because Kundalini Yoga specifically has a lot of clinical research, but also the brain protocols. And a lot of the medical people were in lawsuits. That's what's challenging too, is we can't use testimony. We can't use our what we did with them, because you understand this the most, Sita, because they have a lawsuit, so you can't be involved with that. But one particular case was a 32-year-old physical therapist. She was the average All-American. She woke up one day, had a massive stroke. Well, actually, she had a mini stroke. Then they did the wrong thing in the first 24 hours. Then she had a massive stroke, which caused the lawsuit. She went a year working with the highest degrees. She had a PhD, and she would have been disabled the rest of her life. She couldn't talk. She could barely walk. She worked 2 years with me with these sciences twice a week, paying out of pocket. and she's now 95% recovered, and she works in a different state as a physical therapist. We're talking about money here. We're in a sick care system all the way around. But you have to understand, we don't have any support. We're doing 10 jobs all day, every day. I got on a soapbox there, but you can feel my passion. You know what I mean? Like, I have to get this out. I have to speak this out to the universe.
Thank you so much. This is incredible information. I don't know how everybody else is responding to it, whether within or without. Who wants to ask questions? Please speak up. Yeah, go ahead, Hannah.
Okay. Heather, you're phenomenal. I can hear the passion in you and the purpose. I'll tell you a little bit about my story. In 1994, I lost my mother, my husband, and my manager in 2 months. I had a business to run. I became a woman-owned business in 1994 in a male-dominated industry. I had to step up to the plate, computerize, enlarge, get new products, rearrange, hire people. And I felt the strength. I did feel the strength. And one of my purposes is to empower women to show women that, look at the challenges I faced. And my husband had cancer. So we were dealing with that for a year. And I was running back and forth to Florida. My mother was not well, but I did feel the strength. And after my husband died, I did join groups and women's groups, and these women embraced me. They were further along in their grief, and they supported me, and they helped me along. So it's all about relationships and connections and telling people your story. And I'll just tell you something else. In my childhood, I didn't see my father for 13 years. And, I didn't have a father. My mother was, not an easy person, but I did choose to see him 13 years later. And I did see him, and he embraced God. I mean, we're of the Jewish religion. He embraced God with the people that he met, and he was a different person. So wherever I could, whatever spirituality I can get, I take. I've prayed in more churches and temples. So I understand, and I need, even more so today, I'm embracing people with their spirituality. So thank you for telling a little bit of my story, for telling you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you
so much, Hannah, for sharing. And you know what? We are basically human beings, and we are all made by God.
Mm-hmm.
And we are women.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I understand from my own experience what it means to be a woman. Granted, I'm not married, I have no kids, but working with women for close to 30 years now, and working with them when they're in their worst mood has really taught me a lot. I have really seen how resilient women are, that no other person, unless you're a midwife, can really, testify to. And when I'm thinking about how can I really help women, I mean, any woman, any place in the world, because we all carry the same pain. We all carry the same gift. We all carry the same resilience. Like Heather was saying, the whole thing of coming to know it, pulling it out from ourselves to enrich our world. That's my mission. That is my really goal. And that's why I'm calling on all of us to come together, because I believe in the spirit of togetherness. We can collectively pull it off. The resources needed is in each other. It's in every one of us. Once we agree and we're willing to help one another, regardless of our backgrounds, let's just focus on what brings us together rather than what separates us. And that's the problem we have in our world today. I'm always looking at what is not good in me instead of looking at the gifts that I have that I can bring forward to share with the rest of the world, regardless of where I came from. It's irrelevant because we all came to this world through one path, and I know it. So I am so happy, excited with what Heather has shared with us. And I'm really knowing who we are as women, that we're gonna go further with this information. And with our men by our side, we always look forward to their own perspective to support us, because we need that support to really be fully human. We complement one another. And I'm really, really grateful that we're all here this evening talking about this. So please, if anybody has something else to add, you're welcome to add.
Hey, Heather, I loved your story. That was great. And I would like to say something. I had to write it down because it was very familiar to me. And it's when you said that you felt blessed when you got sick. And I probably got the wording not exact, but it was close. But I was in my motorcycle accident. I was run off the road and I was left in a ditch for multiple hours. I suffered fractures in the head and neck. And I consider what I do because of that day. You know, I had to relearn who I was. I had to relearn my life with my quote unquote disability. I had to learn how to do things a little bit different. I couldn't go out and, you know, lift the 3 tons I always tried to do because I was that big, tough, macho guy. And I wanted to tell you, when you said that, it was kind of one of those, what moments, but then it really made sense to me because it was something that I've experienced as well. And I think I think the way that you put it was very beautifully done, and I wanted to commend you for that. So, but it's a great story, and I loved hearing that. But like I said, I it did get me. It took me back for a second. I was kind of, you know, like I said, what, huh? But I do understand. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. You know, probably what I should add is when I felt really sick, and it was a blessing, was because before that, I was a workaholic. I was a people pleaser. I was outside myself 24/7. Everybody thought my life was perfect, right? Oh, I did a Broadway show. Everything's great. And I was dying inside. And so when I was stubborn, I had a big ego. And so God had to hit me hard. You know, God had to take me down and say, you know what, you're not going to be able to walk much. You're not going to be able to use your dancing skills. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. And it humbled me. It forced me to have to go in ways that I don't think I would have. And that's why there's no coincidences to accidents, and there's no coincidence to sicknesses. The truth is though, we're not training or showing people the magic, the ability of what it can do for us to enrich us, to make us, whether your body fully heals or not, your spirit does. That's what you're saying. You're saying something shifted in you. You chose not to follow depression. You chose to adapt to it. And it probably made you different in ways that are just incredible. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I hear you.
When you said something about we try to pose as super women and supermen and all that, about 3.5 years ago, I went to Nigeria and we had our free medical clinic from my organization. I met this young woman. Well, she was in her mid-50s at that time. And I said to her, her husband had a stroke 3 years prior. And this lady, her husband is 6'5", and she was literally lifting him up, taking care of him, taking care of the family, running everything, looked perfect. And I'm like, wow, how can you be doing all this? Are you really taking care of yourself? She said, well, yeah, you know, what can I do? This is all on me and all that. Do you know 6 months down the road? And I didn't know at the time she and I were talking, she was brewing cancer.
Mhm.
And she appeared so perfect.
Mhm.
You know, what you just described made me to, you know, remember this.
That's
And
mhm.
yeah.
That's brilliant, a statement, because she's traumatized in some ways. We glamorize that we're going to take care of somebody else, and we do all this stuff and we sacrifice for them. That's not loving to ourselves. One of the things that I was always an advocate, I worked about 8 years in senior homes as an independent contractor. I love seniors. And I love doing programs. My oldest client was 103 years old, and she could do more than a 40-year-old could do because I treated them as equals. But one of the things that I learned was the staff, once again, was overworked, didn't do wellness. So I kept going to corporate, you know, the executives saying, can we do a wellness programs for the nurses? Can we do a wellness programs for the aides that are picking these people up to help their backs? And that is a constant thing we're going to have to look into as well, to teach them to replenish themselves. You know, when I went into the teaching healing field, there was a part of me that it was ego-based. And what do I mean by that? Because I lacked self-love and self-worth in my deep issues, I felt, well, if I make somebody else better, I'm worthy of being here. And that's not really a good place to come from in doing any type of job. But I think a lot of caregivers have that in them, that thing of like, my self-worth is built up if I take care of people. And it's not if you crumble and you deplete the temple inside of you. So it's this balance. And it's also about asking for help. That's a hard thing. And like, what's great about you, Zita, is I can tell your mission is about resources. And Hannah, her mission is about connecting, bridges, resources. If we all can have more of that going on, that's how we help build and hold people up and make them realize you don't have to do this all on your own.
Absolutely. Yes, that is so true. And when you talk about, you know, trying to give help to other people, back to the lady I was talking about, unfortunately, she passed away last year. She couldn't handle it. Her husband passed away a year later, and her whole cancer blew up, and they couldn't save her. We tried all we could, and she passed away. And I was, you know, like shocked because, first of all, the way she presented herself before me was like, everything is okay. And I know a lot of women do that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women do that. And I'm like, oh my God, why are you holding all of this and you're acting like everything is okay? That's what women do. That's what we do. And we're not supposed to do that because we're really hurting ourselves more than anybody else. And when I do Reiki, my Reiki, I do pretty much to fellow nurses, to fellow caregivers. I had to stop at some point because within 2 minutes that I'm laying hands on people, they're falling off their chair. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this tells me how really, really stressed, how really pain and wounded people are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we are still caregivers. It's really pathetic, I want to say. But I know hopefully this platform is offering us something that is really more than ourselves. And if we collectively, you know, pick it up and run with it, we will be healing ourselves and healing our world.
That's excellent. I wanted to add to that. I think too, when you realize that you're a workaholic or an archetype of I have to be the savior or I'm responsible for everybody. When I started to switch, part of that surrendering was I needed to build a relationship with God and within me. And that's what's lacking in women, believe it or not. Even if they're good human beings, they're lacking the relationship of, well, what if I pray to Mother Mary? Can Mother Mary is amazing. I mean, Mother Mary has helped me navigate out of so many things, you know, so we lose that sort of connection as resource. And there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. Oh, one of the things that I'm proud about in my coaching is the fact that when people leave, they have all the tools and resources. And usually by the time they leave, they've already implanted it in their family systems, their children, their parents, something. And so it's not just like, oh, we're just doing that. No, you're learning while you're healing and it's almost like combined. And I like that empowerment because at least I know it's like growing seeds, the tree trunk, you know, it's like, and sometimes at first it's hard for people because even in the healing arts, there's a codependency in a lot. Well, I lay on the table and you just take the entity out, or you just, well, no, it's going to come back in if you don't change other things in your environment, behavioral patterns. So we've got to do some other stuff and you've got to be doing it. And, you know, so yes, I think we're on the same page.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else want to comment, questions?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jonas. Go ahead.
Okay. What comes to mind is that I think we all could stand in front of the mirror and just say to ourselves, the one I'm waiting for is looking at me.
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Johannes. That's awesome.
It's mainly women that are here, and I love that because I'm here, in case some of you women wonder, I'm here to learn from you. So I need you to talk. I need to hear, because I'm a man, obviously. I've not been a good man for many years. I've had the privilege that Heather Ann has been willing to work with me for a few years, not always happily, but it has changed my life to the point that I have a life now. I have my own life, regardless what is happening around me or what is happening with me or how I am with other people. But I really need to hear from you women because I'm not educated as a man what it is like to be part of a relationship, for instance. I've messed up 2 marriages and I'm not proud of it. I don't know if I'd been a better man if that would have been any different, but I wish I'd been a better man in the marriages. And I'm sure some of you ladies can relate to this if you've had or have partners. So that's it.
You know what? I have to tell Zita, I think that should be a whole show. What he just said. I think that should be a whole show talk.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, people can answer now and talk, but I think that should be a topic.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we had a topic on women in marriage and women and single women. Maybe what you just said is, women who have experienced what Johannes has just described, and we really have to have that conversation. This is really, like I said, this is a platform where we want to be ourselves and tell ourselves the truth, so we can get the help that we really need, because the essence of coming here is so that we can get better. Otherwise, what's the point spending your time if we're going to end up doing the same thing all over again?
Right. Kurt, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of build off of some things you said, Heather. I celebrate what you said about being vegan and eating what you want to eat. And we're hearing about water source and thinking about the water we drink and so forth. And kind of where I've gone with all of that is to bring forth, many sharing, and we've all experienced it. Sometimes nighttime can be where a struggle comes. There's this whole realm of insomnia and the role of sleep. So when we talk about fueling ourselves with our water choice and then food choice, I tend to bundle sleep into there. So I figure if we can find that right balance between all of this is where we can show up with good energy to really put the practice being the best version of herself. But Heather, I just wanted to pick your brain a little bit. Kind of how do you dive into sleep and how it bundles together with everything else you brought forth today?
That's a really great question. When I'm working with trauma clients, they tend to have sleep disruption. So they'll have more dreams because they're cleaning out the subconscious part of the brain. So if somebody's not addressing, let's say, traumas or fears or anxieties, and they have nightmares or they have sleep patterns where they're moving all the time, that's the nervous system. And so there is insomnia meditations that have clinical studies. They're not very hard to learn. It's kind of like a hypnosis. You do them 11 minutes before bedtime to sort of train it's really about training your nervous system to relax, because sleep, especially in my world, with brain health, is important. So some of the brain protocols can be like running a marathon. People can lose 30 pounds. I've seen a woman lose 30 pounds by sitting in a chair and doing the PTSD brain protocol. Well, why is that? Because as she's relaxing her central nervous system, she's addressing why she's angry or sad, and she's not going to the cupboard to eat chocolate or to eat a cake, which I did, by the way. And so I get it. So yeah, sleep is a huge healing tool. I love to sleep. I find it and sometimes depending on my patterns in the week, I'll put in that 20-minute nap in the middle of the day if I have a long day, and I love it. It's just like, okay, I need to really relax. And sometimes in that 20 minutes, I'll put a frequency on or a sound healing to calm, because once again, what's the sound around you? What sound is coming in? Is it negativity? Is it the TV in general tends to be 444, which is fear and negativity. So you want to make sure you're not having the TV on all the time and stuff like that. So sleep patterns tell a lot. If somebody's waking up at the same time every night, that can mean different things. That can mean a specific organ. Like I have a client that 2:30 a.m. they wake up, that's the liver meridian. So how are they processing their anger? Because in Chinese philosophy, we know that the liver stores your anger. And so, yeah, sleep is huge. Hopefully that gives you a little insight into that. And as far as like, I grew up in the meat and potato household. Sugar was the thing. I grew up growing through the years as a dancer with, all kinds of things. I never planned on being a vegan. It wasn't because it was a popular thing to do. I realized when I watched the documentary, The Game Changer, stimulated me in understanding, because I like to be the best. I want to live a very long, prosperous life. That's sort of the way I am. And I was surprised that all these athletes were building muscle and having really good blood work being a vegan. So I started going down that path, but then it got deeper than that. It got deeper in understanding that the animal has a nervous system just like us. And so if it's murdered, we're downloading some of that information when we eat the meat. And I believe some of the anger and rage is connected to meat eating. I've seen it in clients when they detox that. And so my big thing is, if you want to eat it, I think you should hunt it, kill it, strip it, prepare it, so you understand the life that you took. And you didn't ask to be killed, so you got to work on that. You got to do some sort of ritual, and then you can eat it. That's my theories when we go into the spirituality of animal. plants have a high frequency of alkaline, a lot of them. And so I wasn't a fruit or vegetable eater at all, to be honest with you. It took a little time. And once I found the certain products, I started to love the way I felt. I felt happier. I felt I had more energy. So your tongue can be acidic. So when I was drinking the green shakes, I didn't like it at first. Was that a program? Was that my acidic tongue? But I kept doing it because I liked the way I felt inside. And then eventually I liked the shake. So just like I grew up immediately on sugar, like a lot of people, because there's a lot of sugar in foods at the grocery store. We don't even know everything that's in there. You don't realize how much of that is a programming. And it's not easy. It's a slow process. But yeah, and I think that weighs into the emotional state of sleep, because when people are tossing and turning and having nightmares or waking up, there is something of anxiety, of trauma going on.
Thank you so much for that input. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So I think we have passed our time a little bit, and I want to thank Heather again for finding the time to come. And like I said, Heather will be coming to us often to really continue to awaken us to this reality. And I am so privileged to have Heather as a friend. It's really a blessing. And like we say, the universe knows how to bring people together. God knows who we need in our lifetime at any step, in our lifetime. And how we all made that connection with Joannes is incredible. And that will be another story for another day. So
thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for the energy of listening to me. It actually is healing for me to use my voice. If you read my story, you'll understand why I did not speak for 10 years in my household at all. So using my voice is a part of my healing tool right now. So thank you so much, Sita. I love you. You know I love you. And I'm here for everybody if you need any information.
Yes.
And I'll be here supporting everybody that comes on your channel.
Thank you. And please see Heather's information is already on the chart. If you by any chance miss it, let me know, get back to me, and I will gladly send you her information, and you can really dig more into the wonderful work she's doing and what she's done in the past. So thank you all for coming. This is really a blessing. We're kicking off the new year in a very stylish way of knowing who we are. So I appreciate it. And I say, have a wonderful rest of your night. Sleep well. Play a little music if that helps you. Drink water if that helps you. And we'll gather back again Tuesday next week at 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.